My name is Pat Bonner. I'm a former student at Milligan College, graduating in 1957. And I'm a former faculty member. I taught here from 1966 to 1998. I don't know if I thought I was going to be a Buffalo, but Christian service camp up on Lake Erie. I was in Ohio, born in Ohio and raised in Ohio. And Mildred Welshmer was at the camp that year, told us all about Milligan. And so both my sister and I came to Milligan. People really stick out to you. Your former classmates, I'm still talking with and writing and being together with former classmates when I was a student. Of course, as a faculty member, I enjoyed my students tremendously. Always wanted them to succeed. Maybe I was a little hard on them, but I liked them and the work that they did. Well, one thing I liked about Milligan was I was a teacher, and we were granted reciprocity over all the states. So basically, I taught in Ohio and Arizona and California before I ever came here. When I was in California, I received a phone call on Monday from CMF wanting me to go to Africa as a missionary. And on Tuesday, I received a telephone call from Dean Oakes, wouldn't I come to Milligan and teach? I had quite a time making a decision on that. But at the same time, the Lord called my mother home. So to a certain extent, I made the decision to stay in the States and came to Milligan to teach. My sister at that time her husband had a transfer, and Sam Greer and Sally moved to Johnson City, Tennessee. And so the family got back together again because I only have one sister, no brothers. So we joined forces here at Milligan under Dean Walker. And I used to love to talk to him because he wasn't sure physical education was a good thing. And yet he thought the body needed to be taken care of. So we had some interesting discussions. Basically, I worked very hard to get Linda here because I thought she was such a fine example, Christian example to young women and men. She was going through some rough times at that time, and yeah, I think it worked out beautifully that she came. So we worked together. I was transitioning a little bit as she came to teach psychology and special education and do the Career Center and the testing office. So we didn't really have a lot of time together in physical education. But I was glad that she was going to, in a sense, take my place and really be a great gal. If I may, I'd like to give a little background. In my day and age, World War II had just ended, and the men were all coming back from the war, and it was determined that we should have no longer Rosie the Riveter and all these other people where we had taken the men's places. And so there was a great movement for you to be female only, and there were no sports and things of that nature. That was not the feminine thing to do. So as I was in college, the only thing that I could do was play intramurals. So I didn't have the opportunity that the women have today. So when I came back, it was still kind of like that. We were playing intramurals, which means that you were playing everything within your own college. Then we pushed forward and got what we called extramurals, which means that our athletes could go to another college, and there'd be several colleges there, but your team was composed of one person from each college. So you didn't have the team competition which we have in this day and age. And then, of course, that began to change. Tennis was probably the first sport that we could really work on for women. And then, of course, it moved to basketball, and volleyball were the next two. And then softball was after that. But here at Milligan, we also, when I first started, we used to have badminton team and bowling team and a few other things too, which of course did not go competitive once we got started. So many of us who were coaching or teaching physical education really got together for a couple of years at the state parks in Tennessee and talked about the situation and what we could do. So together, the physical educators formed the Tennessee College Women's Sports Federation. And we went under our professional organization, which at that time was the American Association of Health, Physical Education, and Recreation. And they, through that organization, sponsored us. So we went through a nice long time too, where we had no scholarships, we had nothing of that nature. Because we put it under the academic realm. And then, of course, there were the lawsuits, mainly by the tennis players out of Florida. And then women's sports began to be able to become equal with the men's sports. I think the thing that aggravated me most was as we got to be well known and got to be on television, we had a contract, we thought we had a contract, to be able to do our tournaments and things of that nature. And your national athletic associations came in and said, no, you're coming under us, and if you televise theirs, you don't have our men's on television. So of course then we had to change all around. We had to have scholarships for women, we had national tournaments then under the auspices of our national association. I think something that people might be fascinated about too is during this time as we began basketball, which is one of the main sports that's on television, is the women started out playing what's called 3-and-3. The court was divided at the midline, and you had 3 guards on one side, 3 forwards on the other. And that's all you could play. A guard never played forward, a forward never played guard. And we got to the point where we convinced them that we needed to be able to do more. So we had 2 forwards, 2 guards, and 2 that could play the whole court. That evolved then into our 5-on-5, which is a lot of fun. Starting out, you played anybody. Now by that I mean we played UT, we played ETSU, we played these others as we were getting started. And of course one of my great memories was when we played UT. Pat Summit, well Pat Head at that time, Pat Summit was the coach of course of UT. And we were playing and our team was doing great and we were ahead. And Pat called a timeout, and those blue eyes of hers just stared at her team. And my team came in and said, oh, look at the score, we're ahead, we're not supposed to win. Well, they went out, and they didn't. I think the whole next quarter, they did not score 1 point. That was my greatest disappointment, because I thought we could beat UT. But that's the way life goes. Well, my life completely changed after Milligan. Shortly after I retired, former students who were missionaries in Mexico needed some help with a learning disabled child, and if the child didn't get help, they would have to come off the mission field. And they asked if I wouldn't go and teach. I was not necessarily thinking about that. But I said, the Lord led it that way, and I listened to the Lord and went. And the fella was functioning at the 2nd grade level and should have been at the 8th grade level. And I stayed 2 years. And when they came home on furlough, he was able to go right into the 8th grade. And so I find that very rewarding. Not only that, he's actually a graduate of Milligan. So I feel that that was worthwhile. But that got me started on mission work. I am a Bible teacher. And so it was very interesting to me. Former students like Eric Duggins got me to Mexico. Carpenters have gotten me to Mexico. It really is a pleasure. I try to come out for plays and concerts and things of that nature because I'm still interested in what's happening here at Milligan. I guess I don't think of myself as a Buffalo, and I know you all do, but I think of myself just as a Milligan graduate and a former Milligan professor. That Milligan is truly, Christian education is the hope of the world, and Milligan has kept up with what's going on in the world so that graduates can go anywhere they want and really become anything they want to be. I'm just amazed at what all we've been able to do here at Milligan. I found it to be quite an honor. I appreciated the idea that you were saying thank you, in a way, for the work that had been done. And I appreciated that greatly.